Welcome to this lesson regarding C++ data type. And before we move on, my name is Lucky. And let's first understand this line. This is called a comment. And here we are actually including a file called IOStream header file. This allows us to print out something on the screen. And then here we are having a string because we're gonna be dealing with a string data type which is required. Sometimes we can remove it and it will still run, but sometimes it does not, so you always include it. So here we go. Remember, on our, if you can recall, on our last lesson we talked about a variable, and I will say that a variable, before you declare a variable, there must be the kind of information, what kind of data do you want your variable to be holding. So here we have a string data type, and we give our variable name to be called we call it movie title as our variable name, and then here we assign our variable name to be equal to Fast and Furious. I like that movie. Okay, so here we are outputting that Fast and Furious on the screen to say my favorite movie is Fast and Furious. So I'll just run that and see what it gives to us. Okay, as a programmer, it is always your duty to find an error on the screen and make sure that your program is fixed. And from what we can see here, I failed to terminate um, our program here, so I'll just run it again, and then boom, everything works out fine. So my favorite movie is Fast and Furious. Okay, so another data type which we're gonna talk about, I'll remove that. Let me just remove this. Is called integer. So integer, we'll call it, let's call it password. And then what are we going to give our password? We're gonna say our password, let's assign it to be equal to 1 2 3, excuse me, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then I'll terminate that, and then see out the password is password, end of line. We terminate that as well, and so let's run it. And then of course it's gonna print out to say the password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, that is our password. The reason why I didn't, it's not showing a space, because we didn't put a space here, so that is it. Right, an integer allows you to hold, or an integer data type holds a whole number. So if we remove this and we put a string and call this one, what should they call it, programming is fun, it's gonna give us an error, of course, because it's trying to convert it, but of course we give it as an integer. We say that our password variable name will be holding an integer, and here when we assign it, we assign it to be having what, a string, which is very wrong, and our C++ compiler is unable to compile that information. But if I were to change that and put our change our data type to be string, and then write, compile and run that, there will be no error, because that, in fact, the password is programming is fun. That is our password. Okay, so another thing we're gonna talk about is called a character data type. So a character in C++ is written as char. Now a character allows you, a character data type only holds one value at a time, and it's not commonly used by programmers, to be clear. Instead, integer is used. So if I were to write char and then displayed, assign it to this programming is fun, let's see what it shows on the screen. Let me compile that. of course it gives us an error, invalid conversion from const char to char. So if we're to remove that and we'll put, it only holds one alphabet at a time. So if you remove that and put a and we run it, it will run successful. Of course the password is a, because so a character data type allows us to hold, or it holds only one alphabet. So let's remove that and we type this. So I want you to notice a difference in our quotation. So as you can see, when we build this, it runs with we assign it with only single quotation. But if we remove that and we assign it double quotation and call it a, we're gonna have a problem because it identifies, trying to identify it as a string. So let me run that. Of course it gives me a problem. So when you are assigning a variable or a value to a variable of data type char, you have to use a single quotation when doing that. So let's remove that and let's call this one 65. Let's see what it prints out on the screen. It prints out the password is a. Now let's give it another value and we'll call it 66. And yes, the password is b. Of course, let's try that one more time. I think programming is fun, so we're gonna give it 67 and it will say the password is c, of course, as predicted. That is because the ASCII code of alphabet from A to Z start with 65. So 65 representing A, and 66 representing B, and 67 representing what? C. So let's try and put 75. Let's see what happens. Somewhere between IQ or somewhere there. Oh, of course the password is K. So as you can see, in the ASCII code, the number 65 is represented as A. So that is all it is about character. But we know programmers doesn't use this in programming. Instead, this they use it in the database when designing database. But we'll leave that for now and then we'll go back to string. So what most of the things that you'll be dealing with, most of the data type that you'll be using in C++ is string and then integer, and probably let's call this one, another one I would like to talk about that I think I just recalled that is called double. Wow, so double is usually used to hold information such as money, currency, like 1,255 rand or $55 point 25. So let's run that and the password is 1,255. Why did it remove the these what is it called, this, why did it trick or trim this 25 out? So I will just remove that. It's, I feel I put a comma instead of a dot, so I'll just run it again, and then of course the password is 1,255.25 cents. So to hold a decimal number, you use a data type called double, and to use a string, you use a data type called string, and to use an integer only, you use a data type called integer or int. So that is the end of our lesson regarding C++ data type. and we'll be dealing more on this, and will be, as a programmer, you'll be making use of this information um, as you progress with programming.